Chicagoland native, Mr. Caltagirone graduated from Northern Illinois University in 1996 with a BA in philosophy. Returning to NIU in 1998, Mr. Caltagirone received his teaching degree with a BA in history, graduating summa cum laude, and receiving the Phi Alpha Theta Golden Key Award. Phi Alpha Theta is an honor society of scholars dedicated to the study of history and is comprised of undergraduate and graduate students and professors of history. Since he began teaching in 2011, Mr. Caltagirone completed a master's degree in U.S. history at Northern Illinois University and holds a master's degree in education degree from Benedictine University. In his 14 years at WeGo, Mr. Caltagirone has taught Western civilization, American history, world studies, and philosophy. During the summer, when he is not busy teaching or grading papers, Mr. Caltagirone spends his time studying ancient history with the boy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Nick Caltagirone.
Good evening and welcome, parents, friends, family, colleagues, members of the school board, and most importantly, the graduates of West Chicago Community High School 2015. First off, let me say it's an honor and a privilege to be asked to provide some parting words for you this evening. And as Dr. Chang said, I have been a social studies teacher for the last 14 years. And being someone who spends most of his time thinking, reading, and talking about the past, I thought I would step out of my comfort zone and spend my brief time this evening talking about things yet to come. So, comrades, here are my predictions for the future. In the future, I predict I will get a bit rounder, slightly more bald, and significantly grayer. I know this prediction is neither important nor profound, but I figured I'd start with an easy one that's bound to come true. In the future, I predict that you will all continue to learn. Although tonight marks the end or terminus of your public education, it will not be the end of your learning. In fact, the end or goal of your public education was to prepare you for this moment, so you can continue this process on your own. Many of you will continue your formal education, and many of you will move on to careers, but all of you will continue to learn, grow, and become smarter. Over the course of the past 4 years, we have taught you about the quadratic equation, covalent bonds, the works of Steinbeck, and the American Revolution. But more importantly, we have taught you how to think critically, how to solve problems, and how, to borrow a phrase from John Searle, be less susceptible to nonsense. It is these thinking skills that will serve you well in your ongoing quest to acquire both knowledge and wisdom. The world is filled with illusions, both deliberate and self-made. We have given you the skills to burn these illusions to the ground. In the future, I predict you will have meaningful relationships. Some of these relationships will be with new friends, some will be with coworkers, and some of these relationships will be life-changing. In fact, you'll retain some relationships with people who are in this room right now. And in the big picture, your relationships are the most important thing that matter. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember what kind of car you drove, what type of job you had, or even how many degrees you earned. But they will remember how you treated other people. And one of the most important relationships you'll ever have is with your own children someday. You will be their first teacher, and you will instill on them habits that will carry them throughout the rest of their lives. Being a parent matters. I watched my 2 daughters graduate from high school, and even though it's still 7 years away, I can see the boys' graduation coming. And I can only imagine what my wife and I will be thinking when it's time for him to move on to the next stage of his life. And for that, I can empathize with all the parents in the room tonight. So if we could just take a moment and acknowledge the important role all the parents took into getting you here tonight. A round of applause, please, for all of the parents. Oh, and if you stay in district, please do a really, really good job with your kids, because chances are I'm going to have them in class in about 25 years or so. Which, if you're doing the math, would put me in my early 50s or so. In the future, I predict you will face challenges and have to make tough decisions. In fact, many of you have had to face tough decisions already. It happens to us all. Use these occasions as opportunities to better navigate adult life. Being a grown-up is tough. Don't worry, like the rest of us, you will figure out how to fake your way through it. Speaking of challenges, in the future, I predict that the Chicago Cubs will come really, really close to making a World Series. Only to fall short at the very end. This is both a prediction and a recounting of the past. I have often cited Mark Twain in saying, history does not repeat, at best it sometimes rhymes. Given the cyclic nature of Cubs history, I'm guessing Twain was not a Cubs fan. But in the end, it doesn't matter how many times the Cubs break our hearts. We continue to root for them, and each new season renews our hope that this time it might just happen. In the future, I predict that you will travel to New Orleans. I know that sounds like a really specific prediction, but you should visit that most unique American city at some point in your adult life. It's got history, culture, great food, traditional jazz. It's an amazing place. Seriously, go to New Orleans. But if you can't make it to New Orleans, visit as many places as you can. The world is a big place with all sorts of people and culture and ideas. Don't limit yourself to the known and comfortable. Travel as often as you can to as many places as you can. Those types of experiences can never be taken away from you, and they help form the person you become. In the future, I predict that you will work. Oh yeah, you're going to work. According to the Bureau of Labor, the average American spends 8.7 hours a day working. If you work at least 40 years, which you probably will, you will spend 87,000 hours of your adult life working. During that time, your heart will beat, and I did do the math, 365,400,000 times. Let those heartbeats happen while you are doing something you both enjoy and find meaningful. To quote my father, quoting Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. Life is too short, and you will spend much of it working. Don't waste that time. If you can find something worthwhile that you enjoy and get paid to do, you win. And finally, in the future, I predict the class of 2015 will do great. I predict you will, despite the challenges and even some disappointments, have great lives filled with many successes. I also predict that you will go forth and, as cliche as it sounds, make the world a better place. In the words of Karl Marx, the philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. I predict you will change it, and you will make us all very proud in doing so. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your graduation.